How can an AI-powered chatbot help us as live audio professionals? Can we trust the information that it gives us? Is it just a glorified Google search? Can it actually help us figure out things in the field? These are all things we're going to figure out today. And so I have access to OpenAI's ChatGPT, the latest iteration of it, ChatGPT 4, and I grill it with a bunch of questions in several categories. So we're going to see how it does. First, we're going to ask ChatGPT itself how it thinks it can help live audio professionals. Then we're going to cruise through 5 main categories of where I think it can help us best. And then I'm also going to ask it some YouTube comment questions. So it's comments on my channel that I've already answered on my channel, and we're going to see if it can do well doing those. And then we'll wrap this thing up and see what I think about the entire project itself. Is it useful for you and how you can use it best? My name is Michael Curtis. I'm going to get you amazing results out of your gigs and sound systems. And a PDF of all the responses we're going to see here is going to be available in my audio toolkit at the link below. ChatGPT and similar AI chatbot tools, they're only going to become more pervasive. So let's see how it can help us in the live audio field. Let's go. I'm going to do a quick demo here of ChatGPT just in case you're new to the conversation. This is made by a company called OpenAI. There's others out there that are doing something, but I just want to say in general, an AI chatbot that can help you do stuff is what we're going to be talking about today. So I have an account with them with OpenAI. They just released, as of this recording, GPT-4, which is their most sophisticated algorithm. I don't know if even algorithm is the right word now since AI may or may not be an algorithm, but I can correspond with it, ask it questions. And so here's what would happen if you were to do this on your own. So what's cool is I can use natural language and I can be really specific about the type of output I want. So I can say, please explain how microphones work to a 5-year-old. So make it really simple. And so it starts typing, all right, kiddo. That's pretty funny. Imagine you're talking to a friend across the room. Your voice travels through the air like invisible waves. A microphone is like a tiny ear that listens to these waves. We speak into a microphone, the sound waves hit a special part called a diaphragm. It's like a tiny drum that moves back and forth when sound waves touch it. This movement creates an electrical signal. The electrical signal travels through a wire to a speaker, which is like a big mouth that shouts what you said. The speaker turns the electrical signal back into sound waves, and that's how people hear your voice louder and clearer. Cool. Yeah, I mean, like my 4-year-old son, if I were going to probably explain how microphones work in a live sound context, it'd probably be similar to that. I think it did a really good job. So I could go back and ask it, now explain it to a PhD electrical engineering student, and it would do it differently, right? So it'd probably use, more technical terms like voltage or whatever. So this is a fun thing. I want to see how can we leverage this technology as it's becoming more pervasive. So what I did is I just grilled it with a bunch of questions. I asked it a bunch and kind of had some dialogue with it, and I copied and pasted its responses into this document. So we're going to be walking through these use cases here. So the first thing I asked it is how can you help live audio professionals, ChatGPT? And so I wanted to ask it how it thought it could help us. So it gave me 10 different examples. One is troubleshooting, which I think is one of its strongest use cases, equipment recommendations, audio processing tips, acoustics consultation, training and education, collaboration and networking, workflow optimization, creative inspiration, event planning, and language translation. So what I did is I had these general buckets of stuff: troubleshooting, copywriting, equipment recommendations, and audio processing tips, and gig prep. And I am going to walk through some specific questions that I asked it, how it responded, and engage how it did. So let's go through these. So first, we have our troubleshooting. So I asked it something simple and pretty specific to live sound. How can I best eliminate a ground loop? So first, it told me what it was. A ground loop is an unwanted electrical current, and I'll have the PDF available to you at the link below in my audio toolkit. I'm not going to sit here and read all this to you, but if you want to read it in detail, I'm just going to give you the highlights. But what I really like is that it listed out troubleshooting steps. So verify the issue, make sure everything is connected to a single central ground point because it's ground differentials between two different pieces of gear that create the ground loop. Use balanced connections, which reduces noise. That's great. Isolation transformers. Yes, those isolate different parts of your electrical setup. A power conditioner, I've never had one like actually help. I guess that could help filter things, but I guess you need a nice one. You can lift the ground. I like that it says as a last resort. So, because lifting the ground can potentially create some safety hazards. So I like that it listed that. Check all the cables. I think it should have put the as a last resort later on and maybe check the cables before that. Keep audio and power cables separated. That's always good. Or if you can't figure it out, consult an electrician. So go seek a professional. And then remember, safety should always be your top priority. We're working with electrical equipment. So it's not fast and loose. It gives you a pretty logical way to step through it. So I like how it did this if you're running into an issue. So my next question, how can I improve the signal strength of my Shure ULXD wireless system? I keep getting dropouts. So one thing to get the most out of ChatGPT and any other AI chatbot is to be specific. And so instead of just saying wireless system, I made sure it knew Shure ULXD because it's going to have a specific way of handling things and connecting them together because it doesn't know if it's Bluetooth or RF. So this gives it enough context in its case. So I keep getting dropouts. So if you're having an issue on your show, you can ask a similar question. So drop-ins in wireless can be frustrating and disruptive. Here's some tips. Antenna placement, orientation, coordination, directional antennas, all good. Increase the transmitter power, minimize the distance. Use remote antennas, basically get some antennas closer. Set the gain, check the sources for interference. So I'm not sure how Wi-Fi would interfere with RF, but LED lighting, I don't know. I need to learn more about wireless, but and maintenance. So yeah, so just good kind of boilerplate, but general good best practices and tips. So I can see how for someone who's new, maybe not as seasoned, this isn't getting too detailed in all the nuances of things to look at. It doesn't talk about the Shure ULXD in particular, but it does give really good best practices and principles for what's going on. I do like that it mentions later to use with the remote antenna down here. Let's see, with low loss coaxial cables. Maybe I wish it would give you a specific one to look for, maybe like RGX8 or something like that. I think that's the model number, but you can fact check me there. Okay, next one in troubleshooting. I asked it something really specific that I encountered on a show. I'm not able to see or control my Yamaha TO1608 from the Yamaha QO5 console. How can I gain control of the preamps and see the TO for I/O patching at my desk? So if you're unfamiliar, the Yamaha TO series are originally designed to go with the Yamaha TF consoles and not necessarily with the CL or QL. So sometimes getting those to talk is a little weird. So checks connections, high quality Ethernet cable on the same network and compatible IP settings. So good networking best practices, update the firmware, set the unit ID. So, okay, cool. You can unit the front panel rotary switch on the device. I think it's actually like a little switch you can put at 1, 2, or 3. The unit ID should be between 1 and 8 for the QL5 console. Configure the Dante network. I'm not quite sure if that's accurate. It's been a while since I actually figured that out, but not sure. Configure the Dante network, connected now within the network. And it's saying use the quick config mode. So I like that it walked you through something on the QL5, press the setup button to the IO device tab, then quick config feature. I've never used that on the QL5. I'm not sure if that's like a TF thing. I know quick config is like the default setup for a TO. So it might be cross-pollinating. Again, someone who's an expert here, please let me know. But I just wanted to see what it came up with on a very specific question. So verify connections in the console. Should automatically patch the inputs and the outputs. You can it shows, hey, you can verify it here and then test. So it gave some specific stuff, which is pretty cool. I like that it walk you through how to do something with like, hey, here's setup, go to device tab. So it knows the console fairly well. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I think this is one of its strongest use cases here is troubleshooting of like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Can you help me figure this out? The next I think is most strong is copywriting. So we all have to write. We all have to talk to people, whether that's writing our own website, a resume, a contract, emailing people. So maybe this might not be your strong suit. This is, I think, where it really shines. So can you write me a kind, succinct email that politely declines an upcoming audio gig on April 30th in Tulsa? Here we go. Subject, regretfully declining audio gig on April 30th in Tulsa. So pretty matter of fact. Regretfully, I could have asked it to put it in a more friendly tone or colloquial and less formal, but it is polite. I hope this email finds you well. I want to personally reach out and express my gratitude for considering me for the audio gig. It is always a pleasure to be presented with opportunities to work on exciting projects like yours. Unfortunately, after careful consideration, I must decline, blah, 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 blah. So if you need help finding a replacement, thank you for thinking of me. Warm regards. So a little bit formal for my style of talking. But again, I could just ask it like, this is great. Please make it a little friendlier and looser, if you will. So anyway, I thought this is a cool use case for that. Next is contract writing. So I actually asked it, hey, can you write a contract for me as a freelance live audio engineer? So let me find that here. So right here is where I asked it. I said, I am a freelance live audio professional who mixes live concerts. Can you write me a contract that would be between me and the production companies who hire me? What should be included? And it gave me here in nice markdown format too, so I could put it right here in Obsidian, my note-taking software of choice, and it formatted it all correctly. So it created scope of work, the services, and this is all pertinent to the event industry, the compensation, like make sure it have that per event or per hour or day rates or whatever. Payment terms are net 30 from the date of invoice. Independent contractor status, equipment, cancellation. That's pretty cool. This shall be entitled to a percentage of the agreed upon rate if it's canceled in advance. Liability, laws, amendments. And it has a place for you to sign and for the production company to sign. So I think it did a really good job of picking up specific things about the industry they should be talking about, not just a boilerplate general contract about just this is client, this is contract or something like that. So again, you don't have to use this word for word. You can kind of make it your own, but I love that gives you a jumping off point if you're making a contract yourself. Next, we are moving on to an example resume. So I asked it I put in like, hey, this is my experience. This is where I graduated from. Here are the references I want. Can you make a resume? And it more or less just copy and pasted what I input and kind of formatted it a little bit differently. But I think a better use of that is, can you give me an outline for a resume as a live audio engineer? So contact information, outlining your career goals, sure. Your education, sure. Certifications, but then also gives me some prompts for the technical skills, like list your mixing consoles you're comfortable with. Almost every new production company who hires me asks that. Your audio software and tools. Are you comfortable with wireless, signal processing? So system tuning stuff, microphone techniques, professional experience, where you've worked before, what you accomplished each role, notable projects. So then it says significant live events, artists, or productions, highlighting your contributions. So, I've done the 2020 inauguration. That's, kind of a big deal. So helpful to tell people. So do that. Same for yourself. Any just additional skills, musical instruments, that's good context. Do you know any other languages? Can you project manage? That's good. And then some references. So I thought this was a really helpful outline for someone that's new. Again, take this, make it your own, but it just kind of gives you a jumping off point for that. Next is equipment recommendations. All right, so can we have it help us out figuring out what type of equipment to use? So I asked it, what are some live audio console options with at least 64 inputs and outputs for under $20,000? And this one, it failed miserably. So it told me the Behringer X32. It can only do 32 inputs. The Allen & Heath SQ series. I'm not sure about the SQ7. I think it can do 64. I need to fact check there, but definitely not the M32. The Soundcraft VI series, Shure 96 and 24 outs. I think it got confused and thought about like how many total I/O boxes can I have all contributing, but the actual console itself, or maybe I could have been more specific about channels on the desk. The QL5 combined with Rios can do 64. Yes, that's true. And then I thought this was really interesting. It said, hey, here's the Avid Venue S6L 24C. Even though it's over 20 grand, so it's like, hey, this is a little bit over, but you maybe look at this. So this is kind of like salesperson, like you're going to hire a real estate agent, and like, hey, our budget's $250,000. They're like, this was $275, but it's real nice. I thought that was interesting. And it does have the caveat that the prices may change. Sure, that's great. You can find refurbished or used to get more affordable. Great. So it wasn't super accurate here, but I'll be interested to see how it deals with other information. Then I asked it, what wireless solution would you recommend for system tuning, optimization, and alignment microphones? I want to be able to place my mic anywhere in arena setting and take an accurate measurement. So this is very specific. For system tuning, that's important. Use a DPA 4090, 4091. Sure, I guess it recommended a microphone. It didn't talk about the ISIMCON or Audix or anything else. But then it says, use Shure, ULXD, or Axient. Wrong answer. You cannot use those for system tuning because they are not linear and time invariant. So you need an electrosonic system or a Mi Pro or My Pro, however you say it. It says here's how you can connect it. It walks you through the setup. So I thought that was interesting that it tried to walk you through, like, here's how you can connect it. But all that being said, that's inaccurate data. You can use these, but you're going to have your measurement drifting. So that's a no-go here. Audio processing tips. What are the main tonal and use case differences for Intellitronics LA2A style compressor versus a Yuri 1176? So this was a fun one, kind of the two ends of the spectrum. I think it did good here. It said an optical compressor, the LA2A, talked about the topology. It's transparent, smooth, and warm. Very good. Some use cases for us, vocal bass and smooth, gentle compression. Versus the 1176, it's FET based. It's a faster attack release compared to the LA2A, so it doesn't talk about it in isolation. It talks about its comparison, which I thought was cool. It's an aggressive, punchy compression, presence, character, and energy. I think that's all right. Highly versatile. And it's also well-suited for adding punch and presence to transient heavy material like drums, percussion, and electric guitars. So, and it gives a nice little summary here. So I thought it did a good job there. And then I asked it more of like I need help in this mix situation question. I'm having a hard time gaining clarity on the lead vocal in my live mix. How can I improve clarity here? I'm mixing on an Allen Heath Avantis. So I gave it a console to be like, hey, maybe there's a specific feature in this console that would help. I wanted to prompt it and see if it would talk about it. So gain staging, yes, get that right. You don't want too low or too high. Use a high pass filter to get rid of low frequencies. Sure, that's great. EQ adjustments. I like that. Talked about the low mids, giving me some frequency ranges, cutting a few dB of low mids. Proximity effect is often a problem on a lead vocal. Presence 1 to 4K can help vocals cut. Yeah, that's great. Some sparkle and airiness. Be cautious with your EQ adjustments. Use a narrow Q. That was interesting here up on that section. Gentle compression to keep it reined in. And on the Avantis, whatever, start with a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio, fast attack and medium release. I would agree with all that. Achieve around 3 to 6 dB of gain reduction. So this is like good just if you're a beginner, stuff to digest in general with what's going on. Using a de-esser to get rid of sibilance, great. Continually monitor your mix on headphones, near-field monitors, PA systems. So we're not on near field. I guess you could use near field in a live environment. Always make the processing decisions in context of the full mix. That's a good tip because you don't want to make something sound perfect in isolation. Then use effects sparingly. I guess, yeah, if you're washing the vocal out, that can reduce clarity. So I guess that's all good. So pretty general, pretty boilerplate. It didn't talk about the Avantis specifically, like, oh, we've got this Dyne 8 multiband EQ and compressor on there, and that could help. I was trying to see if it picked up on anything specific, and it did not. Again, none of the information was bad or wrong. It just didn't get as specific as I wanted it to. Next, we move on to gig prep. So maybe working with new gear or preparing for something, I wanted to give it some questions to see how it handled that. So I'm used to working with D&B's GSL series line arrays. I have a gig coming up that's a Meyer Panther rig. What are the biggest differences between the two and how should I best prepare? All right, let's see how it does. That's not necessarily true for me. I just asked it that. While both D&B, GSL, Meyer sound Leopard, not Panther, as Panther was an older system, completely inaccurate. Panther was released less than a year ago, and it basically says, we're going to talk about Leopard. So strike one, it doesn't know that Panther is a real system from Meyer. So this line array features full range, broadband directivity control, and cardioid subwoofer integration. It didn't talk about the cardioid feature in the line array itself. Meyer Leopard, designed for small to mid-sized venues. Sure. It says later on that the coverage of the GSL or the leopard is wider than the GSL, at least with the GSL 12, that's not true. It's 120 degrees. The leopard is 110. It does talk about array calc and R1 versus Meyer with mapXT. It doesn't mention map 3D, so it's just maybe just referencing old material. So I'm most interested in this section. So to best prepare for your gig, Meyer Sound Leopard rig, consider the following steps. Familiar yourself with the Meyer Sound software tools such as mapXT and Compass. That's great. These tools will help you with sound system design, prediction, and optimization. Understand the rigging differences between the system. Sure, they're going to rig differently. Research Leopard's technical specifications and coverage patterns. That's great. It's always good to know about any box you're working with. Go to a training session or reach out to the company's technical support. So, yeah, so pretty good. I mean, it obviously did not pick up on the fact that Meyer has a box called Panther, but it did okay with this question. And next one, explain how it can integrate a 2-wire RTS system into a FreeSpeak 2 base station. Really specific, had to do this the other day. So it fails to recognize that you can do a 2-wire system into the FreeSpeak. You basically have to switch that mode inside the FreeSpeak 2 unit. I'm not sure if it's a new feature or you used to require this other thing, but it's saying I need an LQ series device to convert 2-wire to 4-wire. But at least the last base station I worked with, it can do 2-wire or 4-wire. You just got to change some of the sections. So it's a pretty detailed walkthrough, which is cool. So it tells you how to test it, but I maybe could have gone back and forth and like, hey, with the new FreeSpeak unit, or how do I use the 2-wire interface on the FreeSpeak 2 base station well? So anyway, it didn't quite get that one, but if I didn't need to use the LQ unit, I now have a step-by-step walkthrough there. All right, here's a fun section. I actually gave it 4 questions that were in the comments section from my YouTube videos, and let's see how I handled that. Hello, I'm going to try stacked inverted gradient pattern. Could you please explain? I have to put bottom sub facing the stage and the top one facing the audience. And which one has to be delayed and inverted? Thank you for your help. And it did a good job here. And so here's the orientation. Place the bottom subwoofer facing the stage, top subwoofer facing the audience. The bottom subwoofer facing the stage needs to be delayed and its polarity inverted. The amount of delay required depends on the distance between the front grills. And then it says, here's how you calculate the delay. So you can... But the thing is, it doesn't really account for like the wraparound path, and you can't really measure the bottom one through the top. So I wish it would have said like get a measurement microphone out and figure out the delay time. Here's how to read a phase graph or whatever. But this calculation is right, and it helps you convert that, but it's hard to measure distance between those two subs because of the propagation path of the sub. And then it talks about level adjustment. So I usually don't end up doing this part. You want them equal in level at the rear so that they can cancel more, but I don't know. Jury's out on that one. And it tells me here's the results you should know. Our next question, our band only has 1 sub with 2 main speakers at the time. Where do you recommend placing the sub? In the center or below one of the front mains? This is for a small venue, 150 to 200 people max. It's for a small venue with a single subwoofer and 2 mains. Placing the subwoofer in the center between the 2 mains is generally the most effective option. This central position can help provide a more even low frequency coverage across the audience area. It tells me here I can position the main speakers. It says to toe them in. Sure, I guess if everyone's in the middle. We don't know that. Place a subwoofer in the center of the stage. Time alignment is optional. Walk around, check the coverage. So general stuff, but I would agree here that starting in the center would be good to have it equal between the two. What microphone for system tuning would be suggested to purchase if the RTA 420 and the EMX 7150 are unavailable? So in the video, I recommend these two, but at least of this video right now, they're unavailable at Rational Acoustics shop because they're just waiting on more to come in. So what should you get? So let's see what microphones it come up with. First one, it strikes out Audio-Technica AT4050. That's a large diaphragm condenser. That's not suitable. Even if it does have a flat response, the capsule size is bigger and that's something small. And Omni, I guess it is a multi-pattern. I'm not saying you can't use it at all, but it's not going to be as accurate as something that's designed for this. So the Earthworks M30, great. Behringer ECM 800, it says it's an affordable. It is a budget option. The DBX RTA-M, that's great. The Dayton Audio EMM6. So cool. So I struck out in this first option, but the other 4 it did a good job with. And lastly, before we wrap this thing up, does turning a subwoofer around 180 degrees, so just facing it the other way, invert the polarity of this sound wave? It does not invert the polarity of the sound wave. The polarity is determined by the electrical signal fed in the speaker and how the speaker's diaphragm moves in response to that signal. Inverting it will require this. I like this. Rotating the subwoofer 180 degrees will change the direction in which the sound wave is emitted, but it won't affect the polarity. So if the subwoofer is facing away from the audience, the sound waves will still propagate, but they'll interact differently with the room and the other surfaces, which may result in a different perceived sound. I like that. So because that's just a common misnomer that if a speaker's facing a different direction, the polarity is going to be different, and it's not, because waves are moving out spherically. It's a point source wave moving out from what's going on. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Here's my conclusion. Number one is do your own fact checking. So this is a helpful resource overall, and I would continue to get more comfortable with it and figure things out. But it's not the end all be all. It's not going to replace us. I wouldn't be scared of it. But just make sure the data you get, always take it with a grain of salt, because it doesn't list its sources. We don't know where it got it from. And so just make sure anything you get from it, fact check it. So put its answers into Google, find a reputable source like a pro audio magazine or a trusted blog with someone who really knows what they're talking about. I know the internet's the Wild West anyway, but just as this caveat, do your own fact checking. I think the best way to use it is, number two, as a cognitive sparring partner. So it's if you're alone trying to figure a problem out and you just need something to bounce ideas off of or help you think through something a little bit more completely or from a different perspective, I think this is where this tool shines. So again, with troubleshooting, you might be thinking it's a certain issue and you can be saying like, hey, I'm getting a buzz out of this speaker, but I've tried this and this. What do you think it could be? It's going to rattle off some stuff. I really like that. And lastly, have it help you be a better writer. Again, it's strongest use case here. If you're not a strong writer or just want an outline or a framework to give you to kind of use as a lattice work for you to jump off of and create better, I think it's a really good tool here. You can dialogue with it, have it help you write contracts, emails, rewrite something in a better tone, decline events, accept events, whatever you want to do. So I feel like, again, the troubleshooting and writing better copy, at least for now, is what's best. So again, you can check it out at OpenAI's website. ChatGPT 3.5 is right now publicly available and free if it's under limited use or has limited capacity to use it. But GPT-4 just rolled out for pro users, and I'm giving that a run. So let me know what you thought of this below. What was a question that you think would be cool to ask it? What was surprising for you? What other use cases am I missing? I would love to hear from you. My name is Michael Curtis. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you next time.